Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Unity Center, a church of positive prayer in Pflugerville. How's that? Does that sound good?
Yes.
Good. I was just looking at the words of this song we just sang. As I give, I truly receive. But then it emphasizes at least, 4, 5, 6 times, I am a child of God. Just as I am, I truly am a child of God. And I brought a banner in this morning. And that banner's in my office. My daughter's bought it for me, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago. And because part of my conversation is there's really nothing to do other than remember who we are. Okay? So that says, life is really simple. Anybody want to buy into that? I hope so. Sure doesn't look that way. And then, but we insist on making it complicated. Now, the guy that quoted that, I was going to look it up this morning, didn't get there. But he was writing, at least, 3,000 years ago? And so the idea repeats itself over and over and over throughout ancient history and as mysticism and the spiritual life. So it says, life is really simple. So there must be a simplicity of life that we can find. Okay, and just as I am, the idea here is I give, I truly receive, I am a child of God. And guess what I believe the root of the whole conversation is? I am a child of God. So I just got this idea. Everybody, let's just do this. Do this on your chest. This integrates the left and the right side. And say together, I am a child of God. 1, 2, 3. I am a child of God. Now, for some people, that phrase is a little bit daunting. So is there another way to put it? Somebody else, I am an expression of God. Let's do that. I am an expression of God. I am a child of God. Okay, and whatever words you have to use to convince yourself of who you are. And I'm reminded of the word, you can put it down now. But I'm reminded of the word creep. Does anybody have any idea, the old idea of whisper down the lane? I bring this up from time to time. But if you've ever played the game, I remember having lines of like 8, 9, 10 people. And somebody would start a simple one sentence here, and at the other end of the line is a completely different story. Totally convoluted, changed. So, I believe, anybody think that through 2,000 years of history, maybe some of the words of our master teacher, Jesus, have been changed. And there's been a slow creep of change. And that slow creep of change has been taking us from his words that you are the light of the world. Okay, that's Matthew 5:14. Okay, so look it up because it's the beginning, kind of in the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, which he was trying to tell people, hey, you are really the light of the world. You have an energy within you that transmits itself everywhere like a huge light. Now, guess what modern science says? There's an energy within us that's unbelievable. And if we could see it, we would be amazed at the bright light around us. So there are people that can see auras, but the energies that are such a frequency that they're not tuned to our normal eyesight. So here we are, this huge, huge bundle of energy. Everybody think of yourself as a bundle of energy. And you're expressing that. It's kind of like random. Boom! And what happens is what we take in is what we put back out again. Anybody familiar with that one? Okay. And the very clearly it says, whatever you think about, you create. So we're living in a world of our own creation. Everybody there? So everybody take a breath. And basically, back in the beginning, let's go back to whenever. We don't need to go back to the Neanderthal man, but we need to go back and understand in the beginning we were perfect and whole. Because Genesis tells us that, and there's 2 chapters in Genesis. First chapter of Genesis is the creation of spirit. The second chapter is the creation of the physical around spirit. Okay? So, life is really simple. Okay? If we are children of God, should life be simple in understanding logic? See, if I'm a child of God and I'm an expression of God, I have somehow, and you have, this inner being, this inner thing that allows me to live a life the way it was originally designed to live. which is without fear, without all these issues of what we call the physical life. So here we are, and we've allowed creeping negative thoughts to saturate our subconscious. And so what we're doing is returning to the Father. That's why in Jesus' words, the parable of the prodigal son is so powerful, because he was trying to describe what we are returning to the Father, or our oneness, and we insist we're making life complicated. Stop and think about how many times we get involved in the thinking around us. I don't know about you, but I get stuck on the TV sometimes, and these things happen, and they come in, and I start, oh my God, what happens if this happens? And so the what if game, anybody familiar with what if? What if this happens? What happens if? What if? And I'm going to ask us as a group this week, ready for an assignment? This week, instead of thinking what if down, which is one of my conversations, think what if up. Okay? Could be a conversation like, I wonder what it would be like if somebody handed me a check for $10,000 next week. Think about that. Okay? Now, do we go there? No. Because the world has taught us that doesn't happen. Okay? I hate to tell you, I've seen it happen. I've seen people just literally open a P.O. box and a cashier's check for $5,000 in there. Another $5,000 a week later. I've seen all that type of stuff, and we have to believe it to know it. Okay? So that's why I really like it. Just as I am. Just as I am. Just as I am. Just as I am. So we don't have to be, I guess the only word that comes is saintly. Anybody remember trying to be saintly? I have to think good thoughts, or I'm going to hell. Okay, and we get involved in all these what-if down conversations. What if that last phrase, oh my God, I said this. Okay, and what if somebody really heard it? And so we're living in that what-if down negative rather than the what-if up. So what would happen if my pain in my knees was gone tomorrow? Okay, what would happen if I got along with my next door neighbor? What would happen if I forgave Aunt Sally, who wronged me 20 years ago? You can make up all kinds of stories, and it's the stories we make up that determine our future. Very simple. Now, I asked Alex permission to do this, so I'm going to do it. You ready, Alex?
Sure.
I'm going to talk about Vince Lombardi. For those of you who don't know, Vince Lombardi was he ran the Backpackers. And during his tenure, they were one of the most winning teams in history. And Vince Lombardi is famous for the story that every season he started, he would pull the football out, hold the football up, and say, gentlemen, this is a football. Okay? Now, I tried to find a football last night, couldn't find one. I didn't have one, Pat didn't have one, where's all the footballs going? Anyway, but if you stop and think about it, he was saying, I don't care how much you know, I don't care how much you're paid, I don't care anything other than we're going to start over again. And we're going to talk about the basics, and here's what we need to do. Now, anybody who has played football or any kind of sport knows there's rules and regulations. Do you have to play the game in the rules and regulations? Yes. Could you imagine a football game without stripes on the field? Because, the only reason you know you're going somewhere is you go from this stripe to that stripe. And at the end, there's a big stripe that you get points for. Okay? However, they need to be there, and there needs to be rules and regulations on the playing field. Now, this is in the physical manifestation. Everybody there? Mm-hmm. So there are rules and regulations for us with the physical body, and we're here in that process. However, there's also a spiritual part of that process, and that spiritual process of it that knows no boundaries. Could you imagine God having boundaries? Mm-hmm. I mean, stop and think about the power that created the universe having limits and boundaries. No, okay? But yet you are told, and we are told, that the kingdom of heaven is within, so within you is all those rules, all those patterns, all those ideas, everything I need to succeed is already there, innate within us. That's what we're told. However, we don't believe it because we've allowed creep to creep in and sell us, well, you're not good enough. Or even the great one, you're a sinner and you're going to hell. Okay. See, all there is heaven. There isn't anything else. And we've really reached the point of understanding, at least in this group, that heaven and hell are states of consciousness, states of thinking, states of belief. And so one of the keys is leaving the old beliefs behind. So if I'm going to start over again, okay, one of the first things I have to do is get rid of what I knew yesterday. Everybody got it? In other words, when he said, when Vince Lombardi said, gentlemen, this is football, he said, forget about what you have learned, put it to practice, and we're going to start over again and learn it from the basics. And we have a tendency to get lost in the woods, yes? Almost literally sometimes. It's like we're off on this and off on that, and my mind goes into amazing fantasy sometimes, okay? And it's bringing it back to what if God was in charge and everything was okay, which is, I believe, the ultimate belief. So, been working in the course of love this week. We have really a good group on Wednesday mornings. And this last week, I haven't brought this in, but glasses, I got them here. I could wear them before I come up here. That'd be too easy. So everybody take a deep breath. You ready? Okay. Now, this is from chapter, come on here. This is from the Freedom of the Body conversation. And please understand that the body is our representation here in the physical world, not who we are. You'll hear me, like my name is Robert. That's the name's been given to me. But I am not Robert. I'm a child of God, if you want to draw that distinction. But you take a look at this. It says here, while you believe that belief is the result of form. So you believe that if you believe something, okay, and I'll read this. While you believe that belief is the result of form, so I've learned things by my beliefs come from what I've seen and what I've felt and what I know. That's the ultimate, I'll believe it when I see it. Everybody there? This is an important point. So, we believe our world as it's formed, is what creates our beliefs. And then this goes on and says, okay, it is not. Form is the result of belief. So form in its many forms, the chairs you're sitting on, the life that you're living, the car that you drive, the house you live in, even the relationships you've developed are all formed in the physical. And this is saying that comes from belief. Sound familiar? It's known as the law of attraction. Okay, then it goes on and says, thus belief is not only capable of changing form, but also is necessary in order to do so. So if I can change my beliefs and literally start over again, my life will change. Now, if you stop and think about this, is a basic idea attached to the law of attraction. Then you go on, again it goes on. I could sit here and read for the next couple of hours. I don't think you want to do that. But then it goes over here, it says, the body encompasses or holds the belief. So those that are massage therapists and people that do body work know when you touch a certain point of the body, like move a certain muscle, the patient gets remembrances that flash into their mind. Because we know that thoughts are stored throughout the body itself. So it's kind of like the repository, if you will, of thought. Then it goes on and says here, okay, the body encompasses or holds a belief. It is the composite of your beliefs, the totality. So all your beliefs, it will continue to hold former beliefs as well as new beliefs until old beliefs are purged. So it's kind of like that, I'm going back to a metaphor I used a long time ago, that big barrel of ink, and you have a barrel of ink and you start putting an ounce of water in every day. How many days is it going to take for the barrel to become clean water? So it's the same analogy, if you will, of the belief structure. So we have been raised in these beliefs. They're there over and over and over again. I don't know why this one came to my mind. I really shouldn't share it with you. But when I was a child, my mother used to entice me to urinate by running water in the sink. Look at some of the women, you know exactly what I'm talking about. To this day, when water's running, I have to run to the bathroom. Okay? I don't know how else to get it through to me and to you that we are so full creatures of habit we don't know it. And they pop out. Look at all the mothers in here. Madeline's red. But you understand how deeply seated this stuff is. It really is. It's like you go to buy something and you immediately think, well, I can't afford that. Why are you driving the car you're driving? You made an economic decision when you bought that car. And part of it was how much it cost. Okay? These beliefs infiltrate our life and what's happening in our life. So, back to basics. All there is God, there isn't anything else. And whatever I think, I bring into form. And it's my job, if I don't like the form that's in my life, to change my thinking. Okay? Now, we can, there's all kinds of things we can do on that. And we can get involved in all the analytical stuff. I was reading a theological tome this week, and I started going to sleep because it's on and on and on about all the aspects of God. But it was all in the mind, it wasn't in the heart, if you understand what I'm saying. And this is a belief of, I'm okay, you're okay, and we're all here together, and my job is to love you unconditionally and appreciate the love that comes back to me because of that. Okay? So it's up to me to change the form that's in my life. Isn't that a heck of a thing? I'm responsible. Then it goes on and says, inspiration precedes imagination. Are you ready? I'm going to start over again. Spirit precedes inspiration. So it's spirit that gives us inspiration. Inspiration then precedes imagination. So inspiration brings in imagination in your mind. Imagination precedes belief, and belief precedes form. If you understand that corollary there. So the stories that I see in my mind are actually part of the beliefs working their way from the spiritual world into the physical world through my body and my beliefs. So again, we're back to how does God work in the world? I see a whole room full of, mouths and eyes and hands and feet. And so we're here to do God's work. And we have to be inspired to do those things. And to be inspired, we have to go back to basics of how do I open up to the inspiration of God? How do I connect with God? That's sort of like the lifelong conversation, at least for some of us, is how do I make a direct connection with this all-powerful force that's out there that they tell me I'm part of? Because it sure doesn't look like that in my world. Okay? Because we got problems in the East, and we got this, and we got that, and we got that. So, having said that, the body encompasses or holds a belief in the composite of your beliefs until it will continue to hold former beliefs as well as new beliefs until old beliefs are purged. The purging the old beliefs frees space for the new. It allows your form to reflect what and who you are now in terms of that coincide with the new you whom you have always been. The spiritual, the Christ within you is already there, already trying to tell you. It's learning to listen somewhat to the voice. It's kind of funny, and I'll share personal experience. That's kind of annoyed at me. But this week we went out, and one of the tasks was to find sweet potatoes. We eat a lot of sweet potatoes. If you've ever been out there, she's cooking them, and they smell great. However, sweet potatoes, you have to be careful because they have mealy ones and they have good ones. Okay? So, we were going to Walmart, and for some reason, I didn't want to go to Walmart. And then I found out she didn't want to go to Walmart. So we both overcame our resistance. Do you hear that? And when we got to Walmart, guess what? Sweet potatoes were terrible. They were the kind you wouldn't buy. But we were both what was the resistance there for? And see, part of our training is to keep going no matter what. So maybe part of my training is to learn to listen to the still voice that says, don't go to Walmart. Okay? Now, we wound up going the other way and wound up finding the perfect sweet potatoes at another store. However, we could have saved ourselves a trip, probably 4 or 5 miles out of the way. Small little thing, but it's an idea of listening to Spirit. Okay, now, Spirit talks in many ways. What is it? Mysterious ways, if I can use that terminology. Patrick's getting ready to do a class in centering prayer. From time immemorial, folks, silence has been the key to interacting with Spirit. Okay? And we can get around it, we can make excuses. Ego is wonderful at diverting us. You ever notice that? In other words, I'm going to go here, but I don't wind up going there when I'd rather go over here because that's more fun. But I really needed to be here. And so the idea behind silent meditation is a big step in the spiritual world. And my experience in churches and in communities is once a community starts making that step, not some of the crazy things that we do, an hour's a long time, but even 5 minutes a day makes a huge breakthrough in your personal lives and in the lives of the community. And I've seen it over and over again. There's one church here that's gotten huge, and they're monthly, they do a wonderful job, and they are focused completely on centering prayer. So you have to look at that success. You have to, in my humble opinion. So the reason I bring that up, silent meditation takes time to learn. Football takes time to learn. Anybody that's been in football knows, number one, conditioning. I got so tired of running laps. If anybody's ever been there, you know what I'm talking about. You just keep running over. And the cotton picking coach says, okay, 2 more. Yeah, and you want to say, that nasty word. But yet that was part of the conditioning. And then I had to learn to do this, and then I had to learn to do that. And I even had to learn to hit dummies and all kinds of things. And it's all part of that process. Any skill you want to think of that is important takes time. And it takes spaced repetition until I have learned to do it. Okay, a marksman, the way they learn to do it is shoot guns, shoot bow and arrows, whatever it is. Anybody who's ever been in martial arts, you have to move the body the same way over and over again, so that after 1,000 or 3,000 times, you can do it within a quarter of an inch. And so all of that is learning a skill that can produce change for you physically, and we're talking about a change spiritually. Now, a lot of people do not feel, in other words, someday I might be able to reach this point. And I will tell you that we have been part of Paramahansa Yogananda's work. And one of his major statements is it's possible for complete awareness and enlightenment in this lifetime, if you decide that it's possible. So, guess what? I'd like to say, okay, let's see how that works. And the only way to find that out is if it works. So together, I'm excited about Pat stepping forward and doing this, but it's been time coming. So I'm encouraging you to make that step into silence. Now, on top of that, we've got Ho'oponopono. Anybody familiar with Ho'oponopono? Which is cleaning out the negative beliefs. Purging them is the term that's in here. Madeline asked me not to use that word. It sounds a little bit strong. But I like the word purging because it means getting it out. Okay? Which means getting all that anger, resentment. What else? Fear, doubt, all that negative stuff, which isn't part of who you are as a spiritual being. Okay? Because the Bible clearly says, let it go. No, judge not, lest you be judged. So it's a learning to love, which is totally opposite to what we've been trained, because we've been trained to seek revenge, to get back. So it's letting all that stuff go. And Ho'oponopono helps that. By the way, there's 2 books at the back of Joe Vitale's book that describes Ho'oponopono. So if you're interested in that, take a look at that. There's also affirmations. There's more of Catherine Ponder's affirmations back there. And a couple of you have used the affirmations and had great results. Yes?
Yes.
I've heard people say, I had this extra money come in, I had this happen, I had that happen. And again, the only way you find out is do it. You see, everybody thinks that you can absorb this stuff. You can. It's helpful to be here together. But there's also a point where we have to take responsibility for the change and say, I don't want this anymore. Here's what I want. Which is also called intention. Okay. Now, I should start referring to my notes.
You're doing great.
Oh, what a terror. This is something I want to say. You're an expression of pure spirit. You are an expression of pure spirit. I am an expression of pure spirit. Let's do it again. Come on. I am an expression of pure spirit. That's the spirit that created the universe and everything in it. Okay? Same spirit is within you. Then it goes on and says, football, no rules. You got to know the rules. Daily word today. Pledge it. Purge anything other than God. You see the word purge came up also in the daily word today. So maybe that's a word we should be taking with us into this week. Purging. Getting rid of the negative thought. Rules. So I want to talk about the rules. And they're not rules. But yeah, they are. They're kind of like, these are guidelines to consider if I'm going to be on a spiritual journey. Okay? The first one is, love is the energy of spirit. So that's understanding that love is who we are naturally. And if I'm in spirit, my job is to express love to everybody. I love you. Then, number 2, my loving thoughts create loving things for the universe and for myself. Do you see, if I'm angry and putting out anger thoughts, I'm creating what? Angry things. Okay, not only for myself, but for the cloud of energy that's out there that Paul called the carnal mind. So my loving thoughts create loving things for me and for others. I can have direct access to divinity, and meditation or silence is the way to do that. Generally, most modalities suggest 15 to 20 minutes twice a day, morning and early afternoon or evening. That's pretty much across the board. And now, if you choose to go more, that's fine. You can do that. However, most Buddhist meditations, the Hindu meditations, and the centering prayer that Pat's going to be involved generally works for half an hour. So we're not talking about long periods of time until you get used to it. Okay? Spiritual practice of some sort. That's reading books. Okay? Now, there's a plethora of books. And we have all kinds of books in boxes back in the garage. Those of you know, our library's in boxes. But when the new building's built down there, we're going to have that. So really reading over and over. Sometimes somebody says, well, I've already read that book. Good luck. Go back and read it again. You might find it's different. Anybody experience that? Mm-hmm. Completely different. Completely different. Okay. I have written down caring for the body and the spirit. So that means the body is the temple. Okay? And so it's our job to take care of the temple. That means we're good to it, we feed it well, and I'm not going to get involved in all that, but at least we take care of it, okay? And let it get some sleep. Be nice to it. Maybe even pat it on the back. Oh, good body, thank you. But would you agree, we look in the mirror and we give it heck. We do. So I'm suggesting looking in the mirror and being thankful for who you are. Then we go on and says, and gather in spiritual community. The old phrase, birds of a feather flock together, I think is very appropriate. And it's important, I believe. And that's why it's just a blessing for Matt and I to be with you. Because every Sunday, it's like Thursday mornings and Mondays, and it's always around us. And so I'm asking you to participate in spiritual community, whatever you have to go do. Okay? And then number 3, daily word. Okay, the daily word is part of the spiritual practice. We buy daily words and put them in the back in that basket, and they're for 2 months, and they're $5 for 2 months. That means you invest $2.50 a month in your own personal good and get a good word started every morning. Okay, good idea. Okay, now I will say that you are the light of the world over and over and over again. I see a hand to my left. Quest.
No, this is actually something different. So back to kind of the meditation,
yes.
I have a centering prayer app. So if you go to the Play Store or the Apple Store, and it's a really helpful. It starts out with you can choose what opening prayer you want to choose. You can choose what gong sound you want, and you can set the timer. So I have it set for 20 minutes, but it's really great because you just...
Is that the inside program?
It walks you through how to do centering. It doesn't teach you how to do centering prayer, but once you decide that you want to start sitting or meditating, it's a really easy tool to use to help facilitate.
Yeah. I find the gongs beneficial for me when in the morning. By the way, there are groups that get up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody agrees to meditate for half an hour. We're not going there yet. Look at that. But the idea behind that is very, very powerful. And see, you don't know until you get there. And I'm not going to take it any further, but I'm obviously trying to encourage us to make that step. Because life is really simple. Look around you. The Buddha's, after spending years in silence looking for the idea, realized that the whole thing we're involved in is human suffering, okay? And the only reason we suffer is because we create attachment to things. So we just leave things alone and know that everything's okay and life is really simple, everything works out. And it's almost that simple, okay? So, as you can tell, please, I'd love to have you have the whole group there next Saturday a week. I want to again thank our prayer chaplains. You guys are great, they really are. Reaching out to the Loaves and Fishes program down there, that's a major change that's happening in Austin. And they're bringing, and they're retraining. Remember the creep idea I talked about? People are homeless sometimes because the attitude has creeped into their thinking and they've forgotten how to live in family and live in community. And they are doing that creeping back into normalizing life. So it's a perfect example of applying our principles to a group, and I appreciate you guys doing that. I really do. I'm finished. Anything else, Bruce?
I just think I really appreciate your message.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.